Did you know that Trick, the company that makes the wonderful GS007 strainer, which I've been banging on about for years, did you know that they also made drums? Possibly not. So I'm pretty sure I first came across Trick drums via a DVD which I bought about stick tricks, which was by a gentleman called Chip Ritter. Now, Chip Ritter is an American drummer, and you may have seen him on social media. I mean, the DVD itself is probably 15 years old at least. Now, Chip Ritter put out this DVD. And one of the things he does is he actually juggles 3 drumsticks while playing a hi-hat bass groove, which is pretty interesting to watch. But he also has a thing. He played Trick drums in the video. He still plays Trick drums from what I can see as well. But I'm pretty sure that was my initial introduction to Trick drums, and I'm pretty sure that they were also featured in Modern Drummer as well. So probably around the same time, I would guess. But in 2020, I had, again, as I have previously done, had some spare pennies. So I was looking for something that I kind of didn't have sort of represented already. Now, there was only one company in the UK that brought Trick drums in. And as far as I can see, they don't have any more, and I'm guessing they probably won't be having any more. But they had they had some Trick drums in, mostly snare drums, and they had the kit, which I'm gonna get to. But they definitely had an aluminium drum. They had a steel drum, I think, as well. I got drums in both of those in 3mm size shells, so I kind of didn't want to go there with that. But they did also have this copper drum. And I thought, well, I've got lots of copper drums, but I don't have anything that's a 3mm thick shelled copper drum. So I thought, you know what, I will get that. Now, the thing you need to know about this video, as a sort of preface, is that the playing that you'll see in it was done a couple of months ago. We're now in sort of mid-January, and it was probably November when I actually did all that. So I think this is like the 3rd kit I've had set up since then. So I'm going to be a little bit sketchy on some of the things because obviously I am recording this now. I haven't edited it yet, so I just can't remember. So I'm going to read this off the screen. So it's a 3mm copper shell, and it has Trick single point lugs, the throw off, and 2.3mm hoops. It's also got Trick's own snare wires there. This is a lovely drum, and it's got a seam on it. So there you go. So it's got the seam on it. So it's you know, it's not a cast shell or anything like that, but it kind of carries on that little line I went down with regards to 3mm or thicker metal shelled snare drums. But I thought, you know, copper's a great metal, and I've had I still have a bunch of copper snare drums actually, but I've had a whole, I'm going to put them on the floor before it hurts me. I've had a whole bunch of copper drums over the years, and I've really enjoyed them. Now the copper drums that I've got still have all varied in tonal qualities. The AK coppers, kind of a little darker sounding. I've got a Donette copper, a 13x5, which is actually sort of quite sort of bright with a very focused sound. And then you come to sort of this. I mean, there are others as well, but you know, you come to this, and you know, it's just loud basically. it's loud, and but it sort of still retains that sort of coppery sound to it. I've not really been doing a lot of gigs that need that inherent sort of power and fat body that that a sort of a thicker shell really needs. But in terms, I have used it. I haven't used it recently because I've been sort of doing other bits and pieces. But just to go over the specs a little bit more, so you've got 10 little nodal lugs per head. Obviously, you've got the trick strainer and butt plate, 2.3mm hoops, as I mentioned. It's a 3mm thick. There you go. It's a 3mm thick copper shell. Trick's own wires. I've got to say, actually, I mean, these are all made out of the lugs and things. They're all made out of aircraft grade aluminium, which I think is a thing for trick. Oh, and it also ships with, as did the kit actually, although the kit doesn't have Aquarian heads on it now, but it also ships with Aquarian heads on it, which are very lovely. I'm not the biggest fan of Aquarian heads, for absolutely no particular reason other than I just went down a route with Remo and Evans, and I kind of like them more. I'm not really convinced that this would be sort of all that useful for lighter or sort of quieter genres of music and things, but certainly for the more sort of powerful stuff, I think it would work a treat. Possibly in fact, it was the thing that intrigued me the most is the finish. Now, as you'll see from the drum, it's got a bit of a sort of, I don't know, unique finish to it, and it's unique because I've not really seen anyone that's done anything like that, and by virtue of the way that it's done, which I'm going to guess was by hand and with something like an angle grinder or a Dremel, is I think what they've done is they've sort of done patterning that way and then done a pattern that way and then done a pattern that way and just sort of done it all the way around the shell. And the effect of that is that the light obviously hits it at different angles and it kind of reflects off in different ways. But that's not actually the surprise that I had. So I was expecting, when I picked the drum up, having my eyes telling me that this shell has this rough finish, I was kind of expecting to feel the roughness of that shell. And in fact, the drum is actually as smooth as the proverbial baby's bottom. It's got some sort of like rubberized sealant on it, so the very rough, seemingly very rough shell is in fact dead smooth and feels very much like any other drum in that respect. It's an interesting finish. I'm going to guess that you're either going to kind of like it or kind of hate it. It strikes me as it's going to be sort of one of those more sort of polarizing things. But either way, I kind of dig it. And that's really all that matters at this point. And it's very much a sort of, if the AK's are sort of a bluesy jazz type drum, then this is very much a sort of a rock, loud stadium type drum. It's great, it's solid, it's very solid under the stick, it feels very good to play, and whilst I haven't actually sort of edited, as I said, I haven't edited the playing side of things, so I haven't really listened back to it for a couple of months either. I think you can kind of tell that it wants to be hit hard. So that's the snare drum. Anyway, so right, the main body, the main part of this video is really to do with, and obviously I haven't got the full kit here, but the spin that around. There you go. Is the kit? I actually decided in 2022. I'd been pondering this drum kit for a little while. It came from the same shop, and they'd used it. They'd used it in a couple of videos. I think Trick is a bit of an enigma to the British drumming consumer, and I actually had a chat with someone I know who works at that store, and I think he said something along the same lines to me, in that people don't seem to really associate the name Trick, or at least in the British market anyway, the name Trick and drums together. Obviously, most people, I think, unless you've been sort of living under a rock or very, very invested in one particular brand and have therefore never looked at any other drums, and snare mechanisms. But I think you probably have to be pretty sort of reclusive to not know about the GS007 strainer, and also the pedals as well. If you're a metal guy, which I'm not, but you know, I'm just more of a nerdy kind of guy. You're gonna know about Trix pedals and how good they are as well. But yeah, so the kit. Now this is a 3mm thick aluminium shell, and I'll do some close-ups anyway. I'll do some close-ups with this camera because it's a better quality camera. But this is a 3mm thick aluminium shell in the. I think it's a candy apple sort of red. I'll put the specifics of these because I have got them. I just can't remember them. But the shells on the kit are not quite the same as the snare drum, but it's the same basic design. Someone's obviously to make the finish. They've sort of done something with it again with like maybe a Dremel or sandpaper or something like that. So if I sort of spin that round, hopefully it'll stay in focus long enough for you to be able to see the light hitting it and the changing perspectives of it. But again, it's got the Trick lug. These are 1.6mm hoops, so a little bit thinner, a little bit sort of more open sounding on the drum. The badge is, you know what, this is probably like the chunkiest badge of any drum that I own. It's almost as if you could put a little hoop on it and put it on a chain and wear it as a medallion. That's a very chunky badge. I wasn't sure if I liked it at first, but then again, I didn't buy it because of the badge, and that probably doesn't matter too much. I think this is solid metal, this badge. So as I said, it would also double as a medallion if you ever wanted one. Right, that's that. Oh, and the inside of the drum, which you may have seen, is also anodized red, which I really quite like that. So specs of the kit are 13x9, obviously this one, 16x16, and a 22x14-inch kick drum. The story behind this was that I saw it and I liked it. There wasn't really that much more to it. I saw the drum kit. I heard the drum kit actually as well, albeit with different heads on. But I heard the kit. I did some more research and I found, which I'm hoping to sort of change a little bit with this video, is that there seems to be a massive underrepresentation of quality videos of Trick drums on the internet. So I'm hoping to at least bring the standards up a little bit with this video. But yeah, I saw the kit. I liked the kit. I thought, you know what? I always wanted to have, I've said this before in other videos, but in 2017, I went to the German distributor of DW, and when I was there, I got to play the DW Steel kit, which was the first metal drum kit I'd ever played. Now, obviously, DW wasn't first on the park with making metal drums. They've been around for decades. Premier made a kit for Cole Palmer. Ludwig, obviously, famously made metal kits, and there's been other people as well who have made metal drum kits, so it's nothing new in that respect. But I was kind of fascinated for a while by the concept of metal drum kits, and having played the DW one, which was actually out of the 3 DW kits I played that day, the other 2 being the Purple Heart kit and the 45th anniversary kit. The steel kit was actually the one that both myself and the gentleman I was with both liked the most. So I don't know if you can take that any which way you want, but yeah, we kind of favoured the steel kit, and lovely drums, very heavy, but the lovely drums all the same. And it kind of made me want a metal kit even more. Now, I think it was actually the following year, Tama came out with the SLP steel kit, which I have. If you've seen any of the videos that I've done a couple of videos. I've done a couple of recordings with that kit, but I did a demo in 2020. I did a demo for a blues band with that steel kit. Obviously, steel, not really something you would really think of to do with blues, but that kit has actually one of the warmest bass drums of any that I've got of the, I know, 35 maybe bass drums that I've got in here. That's actually one of the warmer ones, and the toms are really warm sounding too. So I kind of wanted that. I wanted a metal kit. I got a metal kit. Why on earth would I want to then get another metal kit? Well, this is completely different. This is 3 times, or give or take 3 times the thickness of that steel kit. It's strangely the same sizes almost, 13, 16, 22. The steel kit is a 2216, as I mentioned. This is a 2214, but they couldn't be more different. And I think that's the key thing, and that's also the cool thing as well for me. These are, as it said, they're aluminium, so they're materially they should be quite light. I mean, I can hold it up like that. I'm not going to hold it for very long, but it's not the heaviest drum, but it's also not the lightest. It's very bright. All 3 drums are very bright. I've got this actually. I think this was actually left over from. I think this tensioning was a leftover byproduct of the video. I seem to remember doing a couple of different tensionings, and this is obviously where I've left it. Now, it is a higher. I found that these drums do high, medium, and low, and they do them convincingly, which I like about any drum kit. But yeah, the heads, right? The head choices. Now, I think I mentioned, I may have mentioned, all of these drums actually shipped with Aquarian heads on them. I have nothing against Aquarian heads. I think I did say that, but out of the box, I got a great sound out. Actually, now what actually did happen with this, which I will say, is this is probably the first and only time that this has happened in my life, is that these drums turned up. I had a rehearsal that night. I literally took the drums out of the boxes they were delivered in, put them in cases, and drove to a rehearsal. So they were quite literally as received when I started to play them. Now I tuned it. I managed to get this one to a sort of a nice sort of deep sound with the Aquarians on. It was a single ply coated and a single ply clear with a logo headed smooth white on the front, single ply I think it is, and a super kick 2 on the batter side for the kick. I got the 13 sounding nice. It was nice and resonant. It was a sort of moderately low, but not too low, not muddy low sound. The kick drum sounded phenomenal straight out the box, and I didn't do anything with it at all. But I could not, for the life of me, get a sound. I like a sort of a fairly deep, or as deep as I can reasonably get it, floor tom, and I was just not getting that with the 16. With the Aquarians on. I remember at the rehearsal, I do specifically remember actually at the rehearsal, that I kept, in between songs, I kept sort of bending down and readjusting the reso head, because I was finding that in order to get a sort of semi-deep sound out of the drum, I actually ended up having it really cranked, which is, you know, not the ideal thing to have your the reso head of your tom impersonating a tabletop. But that was the only way I could really get some sort of depth out the drum and body out the drum. I tried loosening it off, didn't work. Now, obviously, as I said, that's not ideal, so I thought I would choose. I thought I would basically choose some Remos. I've got loads of Remos out in the other room, and I kind of wanted to just put a selection. I don't know why I keep looking over here. This isn't the kit. I picked out some Remos, and I originally picked out. Actually, well, I'll show you. So on the bottom, you may have actually caught sight of this. So on the bottom, I've actually got it's an ebony ambassador. So it's just a black single ply. Does actually affect the sound very slightly. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but it does. It is a little darker, the ebony head. Now, I've got a pinstripe. I've always got pinstripes on both of the toms, but I originally started out with some clear CS dots. And the drums actually sounded quite nice like that. The floor tom, I got the sound out of the floor tom that I actually wanted, which was depth and body. And I do like CS dot heads, but for me, I've got another kit with CS dot heads on. CS dot heads, if you've not played them, if you've not tried them, they do have a very specific sound. If you want to hear that specific sound, Steve Smith uses them quite a lot. Tony Williams, if you want to go back to his yellow Gretsch from probably I'm going to say the 80s. I'm not an expert on Tony Williams, but Tony Williams actually used to use them, or certainly did at one point, use clear CS dot heads top and bottom, and it just gives you a very specific controlled, strangely that's what the C is for, sound. And I just kind of wasn't feeling it with these drums. I had it on for long enough. I think I may have actually done some recording with them. They've got a very specific sound, and I thought, yeah, these drums could probably do with opening up a little bit more, make them sound a little bit brighter and a little bit more open. So, you know, I immediately thought of using the one head that bright and open really sort of lends itself to, and that's the pinstripe. And quite clearly, Leo, I'm being silly, because pinstripes are something I generally stopped using a couple of decades ago, and I did buy some more recently in the last few years because I was just kind of curious to try them again, and they didn't last very long for me. But strangely, on this kit, I actually thought that they kind of worked. I think I said, these drums do actually do high, medium and low, and they do them sort of quite convincingly to my ear. And that's with the pinstripes on as well. So whilst this is currently tuned a little higher, and I don't think it sounds bad. I mean, this is just going off the mic on the camera, so I won't hit it too hard, but there's plenty of tone there. I mean, it sounds nice. I mean, you know, I wouldn't use these drums for blues or jazz particularly, but you know, you can get a sort of a nice sort of higher jazzy type tone out of these heads, or this drum with, you know, these heads on. So they do work. I can't remember if I actually tried this with coated ambassadors. Well, it wouldn't be coated ambassadors, it would be coated emperors. I possibly did, or it may be something I have in my head and I was going to put coated emperors on them. It possibly is that. I probably will end up at some point putting coated emperors on these drums because I just like the feel and the sound of coated heads, particularly emperors. And I think that combo will probably work the best for me. But as it sounds, these drums sound perfectly good and not particularly muffled with these pinstripes on. So the sound, as I said, I did the sound file for this a couple of months ago, so I'd be lying if I could remember sort of specifics. But these drums are loud. They are bright. I haven't actually played them. I've only played them once with the band. I haven't gigged this kit yet, although I plan to fairly soon. But the toms are loud and cutting, whilst still having a nice tone. The kick drum, straight out the box as was absolutely phenomenal. And I found that some of the drums that I think all the drums that I own sound great out the front or under a microphone. But a really good drum for me is one that actually sounds good when you're playing it this side of the kit with no hearing protection or anything like that. Because most of the time when I'm playing in here, I use these, and I've possibly not ever really mentioned these before. These are just basic workman ear defenders. I don't need to really worry about hearing quality sounds while I play in here. These fit nicely over the top of my the in-ears that I use in here, and it's a little setup that works for me fine. But for me, a really good drum is one that sounds pleasant and pleasing to the unaided, unprotected ear in this room, or in any room really. But like, you know, I do most of my playing in here, so in here. And that kick drum, I mean, that goes for any drum, but that kick drum particularly sounded fantastic. It was very big and sort of powerful sounding, despite the fact it was only a 22x14. Now, that kit reminds me sort of visually as well, actually, because they're both a very similar shade. But that kit reminds me very much of the Heyman kit, which I have. And despite having done these videos for 10 years, I don't think my Heyman kit has even remotely been in frame, let alone having ever done a video on it. So I will at some point do a video on it. But that kit is 13x9, 16x16, 26x14, and it's an old kit. It's one of the earlier ones, I think, from memory, or is it one of the earlier ones? No, so I think it's one of the later Heyman ones. That was it. I had two Heyman kits at one point, and it was the other one that was the older one. But it's the trick kit reminds me an awful lot when playing it of that bigger bass drummed kit. Despite the fact that obviously it's 4 inches smaller in size, it still has that same big boom and feel to it, which, you know, it doesn't. This particular, not to knock these drums, I really am liking these drums, but this is a regular 22x16 inch kick drum, and this sounds big. You know, it sounds big, it sounds powerful, but the 22x14 and the trick feels big and powerful in a different way. I'm not a Led Zeppelin fan. I'm not a John Bonham fan particularly. You know, I have an interest in his drums, but not really that much else. But there's something about when I play the trick kit, there is something about it that kind of makes me feel all sort of go and listen to Led Zeppelin. And a lot of it has got to do with the kick drum. It's just so big and powerful, and it really is. I think it became one of my favourite kick drums, and it's also got like very solid metal hoops on it as well. So the actual kick drum hoops are probably about that thick, and they're just big, solid, chunky, bright red hoops. They're fantastic. I mean, this I think is. I'll put all the details on the screen because I've got them, but I just can't remember what they are. I mean, this is essentially sort of a, you know, without the light directly on it, it's kind of like a candy apple red, and particularly inside that sort of candy apple redness really shows up. But you know, I really dig this kit. I really dig it because it's different. I really dig it because, you know, it looks different, it sounds different, it feels different, and that's kind of what probably one of the bigger points is, that it feels different. And as I've said before, probably many times at this point, a lot of the reason why you see a lot of drums behind me is because they do actually make me feel slightly different when I play, and obviously you can see the red acrylic kit there, and you can also see a blue acrylic kit there. Well, they're both acrylic. Surely they feel the same. Well, they don't to me, and I know that many of you will relate to that. But you know, the red acrylic kit is in more traditional sizes. It's a 12 by 8 rack tom, and then you can see a 14, I think it's a 14 by, I want to say it's a 14 by 12, maybe it's a 14 by 13 floor tom, and then there's a 16 by 15 inch floor tom as well. Aside from the yellow ones you can also see. But the blue ones are 10 by 6, 12 by 6, 14 by 14. So they're different sizes. And the different sizes in my head, and actually the red kick drum is 22/16, the blue kick drum is 20 by 20. So the different sizes equate to a different feel. They equate to a slightly different mindset, and that's kind of the thing with the trick kit as well. I now have two metal kits. They both put me in a different frame of mind when I come to play them, and I think that is the most exciting thing about having different having drum kits of different materials, or that are just fundamentally different. Not to mention, it kind of, I think, weirds non-drummers out by saying, oh, this kit's made out of steel, this one's made out of aluminium, this one's made out of acrylic. It's a bit of fun to mess with people. But anyway, look, I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully the sound file will do the drums and trick drums in general a little bit more of a service, because, as I said, I think that they were slightly underrepresented in terms of like, well, look, you know what? I'll put it to you this way. All the clips that I could find when I was originally looking for clips about trick drums were all kind of like lower end phone or just bad quality. And so whilst I'm not proclaiming to do the best job in terms of sound quality, because let's face it, as I said before, I'm not making records in here. I'm just someone with some gear and a lot of drums in a room. But hopefully you'll be able to hear something along the lines of what I hear when I play these drums. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you again.